Hi, this is Angel with another video. Here is hoping you are well, especially with what's going on in the country right now. Hopefully you are staying healthy and happy. Uh, by God's grace, I am. I am struggling for places to run because I love trail running and the parks are very crowded right now. So it's been hard, but I have a marathon in October if things change around because a lot of the marathons have been canceled due to the current situation in our country. But if all goes well, I have an October marathon. So I think the timing is always awful for something like this, but it's a good time for me to be reflective and give my body a rest from the excessive amount of mileage in the hopes that I can recover and run better in the summer, providing everything resolves itself, because right now it does not look as if that's going to happen. But nevertheless, God is good. With what's going on in our country right now, I'm thankful to God that I am healthy, and by his grace I'm safe. But it just made me think of the so many people who are sick and who are in ICUs, but also those that are struggling mentally. Something I have become blatantly aware of is that so many people have issues, and such as, you know, panic attacks, anxiety, which situations like these can exacerbate. And I feel, in that sense, kind of powerless because you can only imagine what they're going through. And every time you watch the news, the numbers are just climbing higher and higher. I mean, I started from day one when there was one case in New York, and I think today we're at like 26,000 confirmed cases, and the number of those that have not recovered is over 500, and it is so sad. And for me, who live in New York, I love what Governor Cuomo said. He said each one of those that did not make it through is a soul and is attached to a family. So I think it's very disheartening, and it's also tough watching the politics play out. I'm not really into politics because uh, it's always an issue between politics and religion, the two items that you're not to discuss. However, I'm a Christian, so I'm not a religious person, but I am a strong person of faith. Meaning you won't catch me doing some of the extremities because I think that is more religion. To me, I'm very strong in my faith, and that means doing my best to be kind, to be caring, to be considerate, to be understanding, to think beyond what I see and pray about what really is. So that's how I navigate my faith. But I'm one of those people that I'm not big on, oh, you have to do this every single week or every single day. That's, to me, is when things become religious. And again, I'm not a religious person. So it's been challenging, but I will say I have been praying for these individuals. I've been praying for our country, the directions of our government and the world. And as a person of faith, I can only pray things get better, because at some point, some people will be like, why pray when you can do something? Well, if you understand our current environment, one thing will become blatantly clear is that we cannot always do something. We are sometimes powerless. And at that point in time, prayer is a refuge. that allows you to believe in something beyond yourself and the weakness of every human being on this planet. And again, I'm speaking of faith and not religion. I'm speaking of that belief of um, God and Him being bigger and greater and wiser than any of us. And having that connection provides comfort, strength, hope, and so forth. So, having said that, I've been doing a lot of that. As far as running, one of the things I love to do is a long distance run where it's a very moderate pace and I can just like focus on my thoughts and prayer. Needless to say, the parks are packed, so there is no opportunity to meditate or pray while outside. It's very discouraging because unfortunately so many people, and I don't think there is an age discrimination at all. I've seen everyone from a 70 some year old woman climbing up a hill, which I highly commend her for. But listen, we're in the midst of a pandemic and you guys are just hanging out on the trails. So I've kind of cut my runs down to accommodate the necessity. I listened to Governor Cuomo's address. I usually listen to it weekly, which I don't watch news. I'm a Flipboard user, so um, this is really weird watching the news every day. I read my news. I think it involves the mind. It helps you to critique and analyze. Whereas if you watch the news, what happens is you just consuming, you're just taking it in. And I mean, that's a different story for a different day. But I noticed this, like if I watch a movie, and a lot of newer movies have this where there's not much talking, and usually I'm multitasking. So if I'm watching a movie, I'm watching a movie or watching a movie plus. And what I noticed is a lot of these movies, unless they're documentaries, biographies, crime stories, there's little talking. I guess a lot of emotion is going on the screen, and if you're not watching it, you're missing the storyline. So all that to say, I don't really watch the news. I read the news, which to me seems to be more informative, but sometimes comes in at a slower pace. So I've been spending a copious amount of time on YouTube and again, listening to Governor Cuomo's address, and he was talking about the trails and keeping a distance. And he also was saying that, okay, you can go outside for a run, a walk, to get groceries, the necessities, because for your mental health, you need to be outdoors. I think you need to be outdoors at least once a day, no matter how you feel. That's my personal philosophy. But I think it was either him or Mayor de Blasio gave the recommendation. I think it was the governor. And he said no longer than 30 to 45 minutes. So therefore, my runs have been reduced in mileage a lot. And again, I think that's really good for the sake of just allowing the body to rest for years and years of just running and running. So I anticipate a period of just my body needing nutrients. So I eat pretty much healthy. So I'm just, I'm a vegan, so I'll just allow my body to fuel itself, to replenish itself, body, everything, and then start the training for the marathon in October, if that happens. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen. I don't think any of us foresaw things being the way they are at this time in our lives. So yeah, it's a pretty tough situation. In the interim, what am I doing to stay occupied? Working on my business. A lot of times, I think, well, I mean, there are many entrepreneurs out there and there are many models, but I'm taking the organic route. And I already constructed my business plan and part of my marketing strategy. And my marketing strategy is threefold, which some of it has been hindered. And now another a portion of it is hindered because I'm stuck indoors. but it's a threefold marketing model. But part of it includes a book, and in this book I have, based on my field, created a model for leaders. And this model, I have like been in school, seemed like forever. Also been around a lot of different types of people, and I've met some of the best leadership, and oh my, I have met some of the worst leadership. And so my book provides a model that deals with um, a lot of the leadership issues that I've actually, unbeknownst prior to, read in Harvard Business Review, Forbes magazine, Military Times. Supposedly, leadership studies is a billion-dollar industry, and what they're finding is that they're not as effective as people would like. Well, I propose a model that is based on the academic realm, which is solidified through scholaristic research. And according to that, leadership falls into different categories. But the problem with that is that, and while it's most often correct, I think the problem is that it puts guidelines on everyone. So everyone fits into the model. And I guess the best way to describe it is, like, some people feel like when they come home from work, they can be themselves. And if you're not a nice person, or if you're not a good person, then you should not want to be yourself until you arrive home. But every average day, every average person should feel comfortable if they have the cultural awareness of how to behave in a work environment. And what I find is that people needing to fit into these models hinder who they really are, and that hindrance of being who they really are hinders what their strengths and their weaknesses are, which then impacts teams, which then impacts productivity, which then impacts the bottom line, and so forth and so forth. Mediating issues also exist, such as motivation. People are not going to put their best into your organization because of the fact of how they're being treated, the toxicity. And I do think that leadership studies do address this, but I think an underlying issue is that even if you are able to conform to an organization, at the root of who you are is what you're going to display under pressure. And under pressure is where leadership matters most and is most impactful of leadership and organizations. So my model takes it a little further back and is highly creative. But the good thing about it, it's a reciprocal model, meaning that you use it the rest of your life. But the model is actually meant for you to extract from you your strength and your weaknesses, but also your members' strength and weaknesses, and facilitate you in recruiting or having team members that are sometimes more reflective of your weaknesses, your real weaknesses, not the ones that have been prescribed based on the organization, but who you really are. And then the model divides, and I don't want to give out too much information, but the model divides this information into two categories. One part of the category is the stuff that you create through your data analysis. You actually create your model, your own model, through this. And the other half is the reciprocal piece. At one place, you are able to distinguish your real you and your fit for your organization. And then that information then is just juxtaposed to the culture of the organization. And you then make the decision on rather you want to be coached to meet these requirements, or if you feel like I want to be my true self and I don't think I'm a good cultural fit. And the good thing about it is after a period of time, you revisit your choice and you decide, hey, was this a good decision to modify my behavior to fit into this organization, or do I feel like I've left myself? Well, at this point in time, when you make that decision, you have already constructed a whole model that understands your strength and your weakness and how you change over time. Now, certain things do change over time, but certain things are static. They're just fundamentally you. They are things such as gifts that you had just because you are you, and they just will continuously exist. And so you're able to say, well, does this position make the best use of my gifts? Because the good thing is, if you really know who you are and you know what your gifting is, you can modify your behavior and your gifting and your talents and your expertise in any position. But the question then becomes, at what cost? And understanding that cost and then making a decision based on that cost is important. And then even more important is to go back or to return and then say, was this worth it? Do I need to continue on this route, or chief, this is not it? So that's what this particular model is about. It's about defining company fit and who we are, and being able to identify where we don't fit and if we want to fit. I mean, a perfect example for me is when you do the interview process now, when you're looking for jobs. I don't know if you notice, like part of the methodology now, because of AI, is each job that you apply for, you find all the keywords. Then you modify your resume to reflect all the keywords so that it will pick up. And then you go through the other stages of the interview process if your resume is selected. And I will tell you, companies are making a lot of money off of this process because what? People want to fit in because they want to make the money, they want the position. And so that's overly simplified. But it took me a moment to realize, is this the best route for me? And in the book that I'm almost done with, I'm asking you to decide if that's the best method for you. Because if you have to modify your resume to fit into a position, then you're going to have to modify your behavior to fit into that organization. In as much as once you enter in, you learn of the culture. And that's why I do think apps such as Glassdoors, they're kind of beneficial because they give you a purview or a preview into an organization, what employees are stating about that organization, is culture, if it's toxic or if it's not toxic. Those are the things that you want to pay attention to if they're on Glassdoors. But that's what the book is about. The book is also about for people who know their leaders, but doors just don't open. I think the challenge is sometimes everyone leads differently, and sometimes that desire to fit into a model prevents total success. And I think that's what we see in a lot of people. You know, I've met some great people, and I was like, wow, that person really should be further along. I mean, yeah, I said that about, you know, even consider myself, I should be further along. But I do feel sometimes we try to fit in culture because it makes us feel comfortable. And you can't truly lead others if you're not willing to be daring, if you're not willing to be brave, if you're not willing to be courageous, and if you are a toxic person. So I think divesting ourselves of these things, and even divesting ourselves of concepts that have been placed on us to identify who we really are, to find out where we really belong in organization, I think we will find what we're looking for as far as success. I think sometimes there's too much followership. I personally believe in empowerment. I don't have to. One of my favorite sayings, if you know me really well, is I don't agree, but I understand. Listen, you can't change my mind unless you provide some new form of information, but I respect the fact that you have a different opinion and that matters to you. And like they say, if you like it, I love it. I'm just not going to adopt it. So that's how um, I have positioned this publication that I'm coming forth with. It's really not for those that have already arrived at their place of success. This is for people looking for more success, feel like they've reached that plateau, or those who are saying, hey, I know I have this gifting, I know I have this talent, I know I'm capable, but I'm held back by something, and I just need that push off the cliff, that push off the diving board to go forth and do great things. Now, the publication itself is not overtly Christian. However, I do have a Christian version coming out because, yeah, I just do. Because I love the Lord and He is good and merciful. So there will be definitely a Christian version that will highlight Christian principles. I'm a strong believer in the fruit of the Spirit. I'm not perfect at it, but I believe in it and I do my best. And that is the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, and temperance. I always like to say, just try to live by that alone every day instead of the law, and you'll find that more difficult than the law, because people will get on your nerves, they will bother you, they will harass you, they will test you. But that temperance requires that, okay, I'm just gonna let God handle it and just be prayerful. And that's why I run so much. So even in our current environment, I'm challenged. I mean, I'm basically an introvert with a little bit of extroversion. I can extrovert, I can mingle, but after I mingle, I need like time to recover. So I don't know how you are, but uh, either way, make sure you find some way to deal with our current situation. And if you get opportunity, once my book is finally published, I still have a little bit more to go. I've had my brother, who is a doctor, did some editing, so I'm pretty sure he ripped it to shreds. I don't think I'm gonna do self-publication because I do want that critique. I want it to be thoroughly critiqued, and I want to hear the voices on it. So probably some of my colleagues from school, perhaps I can have them look at it or something. But either way, God is good. I'm looking forward to that and just prayerfully trying to get through this season. And I'm hoping you are too. And if you're struggling right now with anything, if it's hard for you, if you're fearful, if you have anxiety, or the current events have taken a tremendous toll on your emotions, I just want you to know, even if you're not a believer, I am praying for you. I am concerned, but I, like you, am powerless. But again, I do believe in God. I believe and I know that He cares. I'm not getting into the philosophical debates about that because you can't change my mind. I probably can't change yours. So we'll leave that there. But I am praying for you, and I am hoping that things turn around for all of us, and that we'll just be filled with peace even in this turbulent time, and that we will still see God's hands of mercy and grace in spite of. And that is all I have. I probably talked your head off, but God bless you. Enjoy your day and be safe and be healthy.